to ban.
Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Cursed Entertainment presentation, bringing you guys a game between Team Dignitas and Mouse Sports, best of 3 series, starting off with a 1-0 advantage for Team Dignitas due to some delay issues. Not going to get into it, as plenty of people know everything that went on out of game. There were some substantial delays, and we do apologize for that. Conflicts and scheduling will kind of prompt those issues. Either way, we are underway with the game, going on into technically Game 2, as Dignitas has taken Game 1 based on those delays. So, going on into it, hopefully you guys will enjoy. I myself am Blaze, and joining me is Merlini. How's it going, man?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing pretty well. Of course, I've been chilling out for the past few hours, not doing too much, but finally happy to get onto a game.
And we see unusual gyrocopter ban from Mouse Sports, and we see Black play that a couple of times, so I'm surprised to see that early ban.
Yeah, it's interesting in this position here. I mean, it's still going to open up the field. It's something that Mouse Sports started doing when they kind of stopped picking up Gyrocopter as frequently as they used to, and I still valued him very highly for his flexibility and his high presence in the lane, but really just didn't want to pick him up and instead started just banning him out. Liquid followed through with that a little bit too, but what ended up happening is opening up the pool. These 2 throwaway bans of AoE heroes allows them to pick up something very, very aggressive early on. I could expect them maybe to look towards a Keep of the Light and then scare Dignitas into picking up the Phantom Lancer, but no, they actually are going to pick up the Lifestealer for themselves and kind of just secure a very, very solid carry. And if Team Dignitas doesn't draft something within the next first 3 picks that is late game scalable, the Mouse Sports can just ban out the other 3 as carries, and that's going to take a lot off the board.
No surprise there with a Magnus pick from Team Dignitas. And we see the second ban as Luna, and Aoi 2000 played Luna, I think, I don't know, most of the games that we've seen Team Dignitas in the past couple of days, and I think they just want to just take that away from him. Aoi's a pretty flexible player, though. I don't really think that Luna is really that core in their strategies. They can use Syllabear in place of Luna and a couple other heroes, too, so I don't think that these specific bans are really going to be that effective. I might even term them throwaway bans, as you call them.
Yeah, so they're not really going to make an impact here. I'm curious if they're going to get something that is drastically affected by cleave and AoE capabilities. I mean, the Nature's Call, to some extent, does that in those treants that don't want to be cleared through very, very early on. I'm curious what else, if they want to go for maybe like an Undying or something, to make a really, really powerful aggressive tri-lane that can only be dropped down by cleave abilities like Empower. I don't know. It's going to be a little weird. But I feel, obviously, Gyrocopter and Luna are very, very similar heroes, and by banning that out, I kind of feel like this third pick has something to do with that, but it might just be kind of a standard little bit of mind game back and forth. They do open up with the Keep of the Light here, and yeah, they're going to change up how things go for the next phase. Again, they do have first pick, so if they wanted to run like a weird dual core with something like a Phantom Lancer, they won't have to worry about AoE beyond Magnus, and that could be something. Otherwise, they're just going to run Lifestealer as a core and go for a very powerful tri-lane.
This is true, and Gyrocopter is decent against Keep It Alight, but Team Dignitas can easily ban that out in the second phase, and I totally expect them to, because Black is known to play a pretty mean Phantom Lancer, even without a Keep It Alight, so with the Keep It Alight, it's going to be even scarier. So Team Dignitas will take Loon Druid as their third pick, again, kind of substitute for Luna since it was banned out. We have seen them take it in the first phase to this Luna, so I think picking up this Luna is a very smart move by them and just fits very well into their playstyle, and the bear with Empower, very nice synergy there.
I really like this cute little band of the Ogre Magi. One thing that Alliance runs all the time is a lineup that has a Magnus and an Ogre with a Lone Druid, and the Ogre would lane well with a Leshrac, and then uses the Bloodlust with the Empower to make sure that bear is just insane. So right now, reducing that kind of buff potential to make sure that Bearoid isn't on steroids, that he is clean, and yeah, just taking out a couple of supports along with that. Specifically, ones that have good lockdown, in this case against Lifestealer, the Fiend's Grip could be devastating in those terms.
Yeah, and I'm surprised that most teams don't pick up Panda. We see this a couple times in the Eastern scene. Panda is very, very good versus Lone Druid. You can just constantly Cyclone the bear once you have your Primal Split, and even if you're out of Primal Split, you can just Drunken Haze it and just Thunderclap it and just kite it and just make it miss fairly often until you get an MKB. That Drunken Haze is just really, really painful to deal with and renders his bear very useless throughout most of the game. Very targeted bans from Team Dignitas here. A couple of heroes that are very good in combination with Lifestealer and his Infest skill. So Storm Spirit and Puck trying to give snaking as easy in the time as middle with his Magnus. And maybe a third ban here that maybe for mid hero could be Skywrath, could be Queen of Pain, but they're pretty flexible. You can't ban them all. That's a problem now. It used to be only Storm Spirit and Queen of Pain and Puck that could cause a lot of problems for Magnus, but there's always TA. Even though that she has fallen off quite a bit recently, and there's the new introduction of Skywrath.
Yeah, interesting possibility there. That would kind of change things up as far as how it would work on out. In this current position, Team Dignitas has their off lane pretty well fortified, unless they want to run the carry lone druid, which isn't very common. But they do also have the mid and the support, so pretty much they have one of everything. They're very well rounded as far as their lineup here, and it's more difficult to ban against them. They're not just going to ban one role. Mousesports specifically is going against heroes they don't want to have to deal with. Syndra and taken out. I already mentioned the Bane and the Ogre Magi, what they bring in, but the Darkseer also really, really frustrating to deal with when you consider Magnus's potential with reverse polarity and vacuum. But the Templar Assassin is going to be a very interesting mid hero to go up against Magnus 1v1. And Tsar, I guess that's a stand-in for Fata, would possibly picking him up there to kind of win out that lane pretty effectively.
Yeah, and Snaking's a pretty strong mid player, Fata as well, but with... sorry, someone keeps telling me that my Dota TV mic is cutting in and out. But I have never seen Tsar play, and I hope that he's formidable against Snaking. But because if Snaking gets a good start, he's just going to continuously try and dissect Mousesports' lineup. If you allow him to get that early Arcane Blink, we saw Denny get it in 9 minutes the other day. If you allow Snaking for that sort of start, it's just going to spell doom for Mousesports.
Yeah, that's going to change the pace of things a little bit. I don't know. It's really weird how it's progressed right now, because now we do see a lot of potential with Lifestealer, Templar Assassin, Nature's Prophet for Nake's Bombs. We're going to see a lot of ganking presence out of those because you can infest inside the Global Teleport or the Blink and just jump on people aggressively. As well, Templar Assassin can pick the Desolator so that Lifestealer won't have to. And from there, the Lifestealer is just going to go for really, really hard, strength-oriented right-click damage. That'll allow him to survive on through the Magnus's Reverse Polarity, and then he'll be able to do a lot of damage to these strength heroes, and I guess Lone Druid's, of course, agility, but he has so much HP just from his true form and, of course, the bear itself. So Feast will take effect very, very quickly, and they're going to have to make sure that they have the lockdown. Haven't gone for the Shadow Demon yet, but I would expect it to be the next pickup unless Mousesports goes for it themselves. I'm actually really, really surprised that Shadow Demon hasn't been prioritized for this entire draft. Works great with the Alchemist, works great with the Keeper of the Light, but they really, really need something to lock down the Nakes, and I guess the Alchemist is going to be it for now, going for a Basher relatively early on.
Yep, it looks like that will be their safe lane farmer, so it looks like they already have quite a bit of late game with Lone Druid, Alchemist, and Magnus to buff both of them. And that might be a little bit overkill. I agree with you that Shadow Demon may be a better pickup, but we may see an even weirder pick for the last hero. Maybe they have some sort of minus armor strategy with this for early Roshan. I'm not exactly sure what they have in mind, but hopefully we can see a little bit more of the strategy revealed after this fifth pick. So looks like Mousesports is still lacking a second support hero, or actually second support hero in combination with Lifestealer and Keeper of the Light. Shadow Demon will work well for them too. I think Shadow Demon is just one of those really good supports, and you can almost fit them in everything. It'll set you up for Illuminate. It'll save people from RP and Alchemist stun. Just a great hero overall.
That's why I was really surprised they have gone into the fifth pick without actually looking at it. Instead, go for the Jakiro to go up against that. I honestly... Yeah, that's my personal preference, but I think that Shadow Demon has better setup for Keep of the Light compared to Jakiro. The Ice Path will be able to be... You can land it with the open wounds, but it's not like you can expect the opponents to group up into your Illuminate into your Macro Pyre, so it might be a bit of a limiting factor, but they do have a bit more gimmicky push with it. A lot of damage coming on in with Nature's Prophet. His Treants can tank it up, and then the Liquid Fire later on will help them out. So I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on towers at a good timing, not super early, not rushing it, but still putting that pressure out. On the other hand, Dignitas, going for a 2.5 lane on their safe lane, they're going to be putting pressure out on all the lanes towers relatively early on. About the 6-7 minute mark, they're going to start putting pressure out with Enchantresses, Enchanted Neutrals, and of course the Spirit Bear once it gets big.
So one benefit that Jakiro offers to the team that Shadow Demon doesn't is the ability to anti-push, and they actually don't have too much in the way of anti-push if, for example, Keeper of the Light is taken down really early. TA is pretty much mostly single target unless you have some really nice side blade action, but teams usually don't line up for that. Infest, and is minimal AoE, and his open wounds and rage also do not offer any creep clearing abilities, and Furion doesn't really do anything until mid game. So I think they might be worried about some sort of early push, especially with the last pick yet to be could have been Chen instead of Enchantress and this Lone Druid. But it looks like we may see some action in top lane. But before that happens, I will introduce Mouz's lineup. We see Synderen, the captain of Mouz, on Jakiro, Quikva on the solo mid Templar Assassin, Sar, the stand-in for Fata on the Keeper of the Light, Black on Lifestealer, and Paz on the Nature's Prophet.
All right, and looking over at Dignitas, we do have Fogged on his Rubik. We're going to see that is Universe on the Alchemist here. Then we do have Snake King, of course, on the Magnus. It's going to be way too sexy on the Enchantress, and then, yeah, they do also have Aoi 2000 on that offlane Lone Druid, which is going to be, I believe, a 1v1 lane for him. Paz going down there. It looks like he's going to be just kind of going on his safe lane solo, and that will leave it open for a 1v1. Oh, big damage coming out on Synderen. This is really, really bad. Concoction will come on through. They have all the disables they need to get this first blood. He got a sentry off on the easy camp, but still feeding away that first blood to Enchantress pretty much nullifies that disadvantage. She can pick up sentries right now and completely nullify what he tried to accomplish.
Yeah, he really needs to watch going up that hill. I mean, he already scouted out. He was over here at one point, halfway in between the T1 towers on top, and he scouted them out before, and you really just can't venture up that hill alone. Sure, you need to try and shut down Enchantress, but that is not the time nor the place to do it.
Yeah, very unfortunate for them, and they don't really have any presence to force Alchemist off the lane. That allows Fog to go for the stack early, which has also not been blocked, and once they get these neutrals pulled, it's going to put pressure on Mouz to actually start making impact and bringing their forces over towards this pulling area, and that's where Enchantress shines. She'll have fresh neutrals, possibly 2 at a time, that she can work with to dish out a lot of damage on their opponents.
So Mag has a slight disadvantage in the matchup, even with this one level in power, but he did get pulled a flask, which he's using right now from Way2, also known as Sahil O'Neal, apparently, so they're going with the NBA theme.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I definitely think that the movement of the consumables is really, really important. It means that Enchantress is not going to be going for like a fluff and stuff-esque Midas build. Going to be going for utility, trying to add in things like maybe Urn of Shadows or something like that to kind of combat early on and go for early push, but never really focusing too much on her own farm.
So in bottom lane, looks like Aoi is getting harassed heavily by these Treants already out of region, and he picks up an Orb of Venom and immediately transferred to his bear. Perhaps an early Quelling Blade pickup would be nice, especially with the Furion in the game, but it looks like he's doing a very... he's getting harassed a lot by Paz, actually. We usually see Quikva on that Nature's Prophet, but Paz looks like he's doing a pretty good job at handling Aoi's Lone Druid.
Yeah, interesting movement that they did end up deciding to put Quikva in the other lane. But yeah, that's kind of what they're going with, at least for the moment, because they do want to make sure that he's covering up the core role. Sar apparently playing support in this situation. They don't want they stand in to be on a role that he's uncomfortable with, and that could be extremely limiting as they move on forward. But right now, Quikva doing extremely good in the mid lane, forcing Snake King to move in towards the rune, pick that up, bottle up to full, and then even after that, send Captain Bamboo on his way to refresh that and make sure that he'll be able to sustain on the lane.
So Way2 is on his way to top 5 seconds on Enchant. He could look for a gank with these double creeps. However, Synderen has set up a ward there to try and prevent this gank, and they have a sentry ward, so that will take down vision for them. Black looks like he wants to get a kill, but the damage has already been done. The Observer ward is taken down, and looks like this other Observer ward will be taken down. So Mouz will be playing blind for a few minutes on top lane, and that's a very, very dangerous position for them.
Yeah, absolutely. There's really not much being accomplished up here already, so the fact that they don't have any vision or are constantly afraid is going to be a big issue here. Shockwave damage will continue to come out onto Synderen, and with this telekinesis, putting him right back on into those satyrs, still doing so much damage here, it should be a kill. So that's Synderen's second death, just venturing out far too far away from his allies, and now big damage from the Unstable Concoction, going down with the good path block. Someone from the Alchemist blocks out this path for the trees. Zar has nowhere to run. The Shockwaves come on through. The right clicks are there, and that should be the kill. Alchemist with the right click to finish it off. I gotta say, Universe's pathing was perfect, blocking off this entrance, so he had to go to the south because otherwise he'd just butt heads against the tree line, and then when he tried to cut through the trees, Alchemist was there to block him in as well. Great movement from Universe, and secures a second kill.
So Dignitas really having a strong early game. I like their early game lineup a little bit more, especially with that early first blood, but they are unable to shut down this Enchantress early. I mean, she's been involved in all 3 kills now, 2-0 and 1-4, way too sexy. So nice Enchantress play by him. In mid lane, Magnus actually has the upper edge. Perhaps after picking up that double damage, he was able to out CS the TA. 21 last hits for Snaking and only 15 for Koikva. And it looks like he's in danger, at least until he bottles up from this most recent Bottle Crow action.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, of course, the Bottle Crow will nullify a lot of the potential threats for these guys. They won't be dropping down anytime soon, but every single bit of damage they take forces them back further and further behind their tower to the point that they won't be able to get that CS, and we do see that control taking its effect as Magnus has been able to get some harassment off on her. Kind of surprising because of how good Refraction is against Magnus, but using things like the Empower's Cleave will take out charges.
Charges up Unstable Concoction on top lane.
Going on Cinder in here, actually switching it over. They're going to just toss it out onto Tsar, worrying about that Fog, and instead Fog is going to be the one taking a lot of damage here. Gets caught in the Dual Breath, will actually get out of the slowing effects, but taking too much damage, stunned up with the Ice Path. That should be a kill. Last right click is not going to be sufficient. Popping off the salve now, he is perfectly fine, and Alchemist going to throw out the stun here to bring down Cinder with one more right click. Just really good move from him, and Black is overstaying his welcome a bit as well, so they're not able to find anything. The Acid Spray providing some presence in the fight, the Dual Breath not doing enough work to set up Black for the kill.
Black thought that he could get the kill without popping his rage. He only used open wounds for that, and that heal from the Enchantress actually kept Fogged alive so that he could flask up. So I think that Black was just being a little bit too greedy with his cooldowns. If he had used rage prior to the telekinesis, he would have definitely scored a kill on Fog right there.
So yeah, I completely agree with you. He was so very close, but just that little bit of attack speed was something he didn't have to offer, and that could have been completely different in multiple other situations. But yeah, he wanted to be conservative. In this case, it wasn't the right choice, but one way or another, they're just trying to hold the line up on this top. The big problem is that their other lanes aren't doing amazing. Like you're much worried about how a Magnus will transition mid-game, picking up Arcanes already, compared to that of a Templar Assassin. I mean, she's going to snowball, she's going to be able to do quite a bit of awesome gank activity, but when it comes down to the fights, Snaking is going to have so much more presence with that reverse polarity, especially once he gets the Blink Dagger, and on top of that, Aoi is going to scale further and faster than Nature's Prophet, who is not even able to go a Midas, opting for Phase Boots prior to that.
And now that he's above level 5 with that root on Syllabear, Paz just really has to be careful and just TP out at a moment's notice. So Koikva will pick up this haste rune up top. 900 gold, probably going treads first. Oh, it looks like he may go on Snaking. I'm just ready for it. He's setting up traps right now.
Yeah, finding opportunities there, but he's going to have to at least have two if he's going to be able to bring down Snaking, especially if Skewer is available. Although it is only rank 1, and that means that it is only 600 range, which is very, very limited comparatively. But he continues to use the Bottle Crow as aggressively as possible. The second the bottle comes out, he has taken only a moment to drink it all up. Now Black is going for the open wounds. Nice dodge of the Ice Path, though. It means Universe will be able to charge up Concoction, doing a lot of damage here. He's going to throw it out onto multiple heroes, but only after the rage expires, just trying to deny himself. But either way, Prophet's going to get the kill there, and Fog in a bad spot, gets right-click down, big Meld Strike coming on through to finish the job there. Now going to go and force down this Tier 1 tower, and they have the Basilius, they have the right-click damage to make this work, and they're going to take very little time to finish it off.
I like how Mouz isn't going for greedy item choices. They know they're behind early, and they know they need early game items. And Paz, we see going for face boost instead of the Midas pickup. And Black, we know he loves Midas, and we know he loves the farm. But again, he also picks up face boost just so they can try and get a little bit of advantage in this early game, which they already seem to lost in the 4-0 startup. But they're coming back quite nicely, already picking up 2 kills as well as that T1, but giving free farm to the other 2 solo heroes is not something that they want to do, so they will TP back and defend those 2 towers.
Some pressure down on Pause on the bottom lane. If their Entangle comes on through, it could be very dangerous. Fog is going to go in with the Fade Bolt. They're pincerring him in. He's going to go in the trees. He will sprout himself out. They do have 1 tree cutter, but they're not going to expend it to try to pick him off. So unnecessary dives are necessary. Actually, Pause is still here. Fog going to be able to right-click him, and yeah, now he is in a bad spot. I have no idea why he decided to stick around, but it was definitely the wrong move here. Going to get the right-clicks in to finish him off right here, and that picks up another kill. Here comes Black, trying to get a return kill onto Fog. A lot of right-clicks coming in, and he can open wounds him to close the distance, but is a little bit too afraid, just raging. Killing the bear, but getting RP'd. Reverse Polarity connects on top of him. They can skewer him as soon as rage expires, and they can just actually shockwave him for the kill. Either way, 2 for absolutely nothing except for that bear, and they're happy to make that exchange.
I think that he was hoping for more support. Pot just stuck around there for a long time. He had an opportunity to TP out after the sprout, but I think just a little bit of miscoordination there, hoping that Synderen or some other support will come in. But
big Illuminate coming in. Oh, big damage from Zar. Triple kill. Oh my goodness, that Azalor Coddle Blast, that was so darn strong. Just setting out the Illuminate at the perfect timing. I saw that Wrath of Nature go across. I'm like, everybody is set up for the perfect Ray of Destruction, and that comes on through very easily from Zar there.
And I talked about these other players playing greedily, but it looks like these supports don't have TP skills. I'm surprised that neither of them came. It was actually the carry that rotated in, and I thought it's because these supports are too poor, but that's actually not the case. Keeping the light already with boots of speed and most of his buckler in his stash, and Jakiro he was sitting on close to 800, 900 gold.
Now, it looks like a TP was canceled from Quack top. Might have been misclick, I don't know. But not going to have that TP available for him either. So now he's kind of tied to the mid lane for just a little bit here. Wants to focus on the farm, but not so much on the ganks. And it looks like Fog, in turn, will be able to steal up Refraction, which means that the Rubik is going to be pretty safe up against TA. Essentially, in the mana efficiency comparatively, Rubik's going to be able to use that Refraction 5 times over without any kind of mana regeneration. And TA just can't pierce through that of her own volition.
And it looks like we haven't seen too much of Enchantress, and I'm trying to check her items, whether she's going a rather greedy Midas build or just going pure support with Mass Wards and perhaps Arcane Boots or a mech. I'm also not sure what Rubik has. Looks like he has 250 gold, so it looks like they are splitting support duties.
Yeah, just a little bit here and there, trying to make sure they do have control. As far as the map right now, it seems fairly even as far as map control. The observer placement, a couple in the mid, a couple on the rune, just about mirrored as far as what kind of perspective they have across the map. Sakin coming on in, trying to bait something, but there is, of course, Synderen on the high ground, so that there's really no point for her to overextend. She's happy to see us in this position here, and not really under too much threat unless they go in very, very deep on top of her.
Yeah, but it looks like Wei2 will try and scout out bottom. I think he definitely had vision of Pos, and Pos had vision of the Enchantress too, but both people just opting to, oh, I'll just ignore you, wave, hello, and looks like there will be a smoke from these two.
What do you think about this Enchantress build, real quick? She's going for heal maxed out and only 1 point in enchant. Actually, we're going to see, Telekinesis trying to stun out the Nature's Prophet with the secondary stun, but not going to close the distance, and Skewer not going to work for them either. So just kind of going in blind. They know that there's not many options for them since it is nighttime, and they're not going to be able to find the picks they're looking for.
Oh, see a nice ice path on Fogged.
I'm not exactly sure what they intend to accomplish with that, though. They have all 4, but they are a little bit behind. Unless the phase boots can close the distance very, very quickly, they're not going to be able to find something. But here is Snaking in a rough spot. Open Wound should come out here, but there's going to be the Skewer. Ice Path will connect on top of them, but safely under the tier 1. They're not going to follow it up.
Yeah, and back to what you're talking about the Enchantress build. It's actually very common for people to max heal and enchant and actually pick up stats usually after, just because you're very, very vulnerable to magical burst instead of physical burst, and untouchable, not very useful versus the likes of Nakes. But we still see another smoke.
This is bad. Flak, that is going to be a wraparound gank in the river. Coming on in. The Skewer will come on through. A perfect time in the reverse polarity. Only going to connect on 1 if he pops it, but still saving onto it. Could get 3 here. Closing the distance. They're trying to spread out, but that's just setting them up for single target pickups. Koiko taking a lot of hits. Is entangled up here. Doing a lot of damage here. Big Illuminate under the macro player. Dropping down the hammer on top of Black. He's still alive. He's still kicking. He has Infest to keep himself up, and they do get a big sprout off on Universe. Has to throw out the concoction very, very quickly. Throws that on Black, but it's not going to save him here. Mega kill streak for Tsar. Don't see that every day, as they just turned this fight around beautifully. They were prepared for any kind of initiation there, and their spread was perfect. They couldn't get more than a 1-man RP at any time that Snaking was in range.
Yeah, even with that level 2 Skewer, and I mean, he positions himself right in the middle of them, but just great spread by them, and Sar finding himself on the very right edge, and he's just getting really nice Illuminates, and even as a stand-in, he seems like he's already fitting quite well into this Mouse lineup.
Yeah, really, really impressive. The positioning couldn't have been more perfect for him to get that gigantic Illuminate off, and the Macropyre kind of halted the retreat of Dignitas as well. They couldn't do too much here, and along with that, I gotta say, I love their focus on the Alchemist. Of course, he only has treads, no magic wand or anything, so he's taking a lot of damage in these fights, and he can be dropped down really quickly. And if you can't just sit around and charge that concoction all day long, you're gonna actually contribute very little to the team fight. So that's their intention here. Put a lot of emphasis to bring down Alchemist, as he only currently has 2 armor when his ultimate's not active, and that's really, really big difference as far as how these things play out.
I personally do not like picking Alchemist at all versus Nate. It's just too easy for him to just chew through his HP. He has a really large HP pool with the Chemical Rage and almost no armor, and that's the target that Lifestealer just loves, and he'll just be able to lifesteal so much, especially with that rage, and being able to rage dodge the concoction and often make Alchemist stun himself is just a huge deal. But it looks like he will be going Shadow Blaze for a little bit easier time initiation, only about 1,200 gold away from the amulet.
Ice Path stolen by Fog. Pretty big deal since that has no delay, but it is only rank 2, so dishing out about 100 damage, I believe. Or is it 50? Yeah, it's actually only 50 damage. So pretty weak as far as that goes, but the stun is considerable, and we'll see if you can use it to great effect here. The big thing, though, is kind of they're letting Keep It Light play like a sniper. They're like letting him sit on the back end of things, charge up, get all camped up, and ready to deliver a huge amount of damage, and so far they haven't contested it. They don't have anything to go on the back lines other than the Spirit Bear, and so as long as he positions himself appropriately, Tsar has been able to make a great impact on these fights. Big Illuminates, and now he has the mechanism so that he can keep his allies alive at the right time. Add in Blinding Light, and it's going to be very, very difficult for Dignitas to actually make something happen, because of course they have very right-click reliant heroes, the Lone Druid and his Bear, and the Alchemist, all pretty much designed to just right-click away.
So Dignitas has, this is not the position they're used to being, having a Silver Bear and Enchanters and no T1 towers down 15 minutes in. Very unusual for them, and usually they're able to apply pressure at all points in the map, especially with his early Enchantress pick and snaking on Magnus getting that early start. He has a blink right now and an invisibility rune, so this may be the opening that they're looking for. But they have a Sentry Ward over here. I'm not sure if they're going to scout him out. Oh, yeah,
they already see him, honestly, because he's underneath the TA trap. They have the vision on the high ground, and they are fully understanding of Snake King's potential there. So wasting his time, unfortunately. And they actually might try to go for a gank here. Pause with the Shadow Blade. This could be terrible. Coming on in, they go for the Ice Path, but he does at least dodge that on out.
And Koikva has picked up his Blink Dagger, so about similar timing for Blink Daggers for Snaking and for Koikva. And I see Koikva ping on top. Looks like Universe and Universe will be in trouble if Rion decides to TP in. Yeah,
especially, we haven't really looked at it, but Lifestealer has the potential to invest very aggressively. Went for a combat-oriented build, the Race Car Lifestealer of Phase Boots and Drums, and he can maneuver around the fights very aggressively and still survive unless the most amazing Tangle procs come on through. So, they're pretty much looking to be aggressive, and they just need to kind of find their timing, find their opening where they can go for a pickoff really, really quickly. Both teams kind of doing that right now. It seems like Dignitas, for right now, are prioritizing down on the bottom, up on the Lifestealer, but like I said, he's very survivable, so they're going to hit the Reverse Polarity. Battlecry doing a lot of right-click damage. There is going to be the stun combo from Fog to finish it off. Really, really good usage of the abilities to make sure they lock him down, and well worth the ultimates that were committed.
Yeah, it looks like that will be their third smoke, though, so they might be out of smoke for quite a bit. I'm checking their shop. I think they only have one left, but they've used 3 smokes, and I believe only gotten 1 kill out of it, so I think Mouz has been doing a pretty good job of minimizing the effects of him late. Oh, we see Way2 in huge trouble.
Yeah, that's just insane amount of damage. Go, just completely drop down. Universe about to fall. Nope, we'll be able to survive because the Melt Strike was on cooldown. They couldn't finish it up, so Alchemist will get on out of there, pick up a Shadow Blade of his own. But my goodness, double damage on Koikva. Gonna be able to just tear on through people. Down on bottom, there's a Skewer right into an Ice Path. Tsar gonna get dropped down here. Didn't actually pop his mechanism, which I think he had a half a second to do, but wouldn't have changed his fate one way or another. We're gonna see 2 TBs come out. They're like, okay, you can come in as much as you want, double damage Templar Assassin. You can't stop us from just scrolling on out, and that's exactly what they do. The Bear taking some hits will not actually get recalled. I didn't realize, but Orb of Venom puts the recall on cooldown as it is player-based damage, and as inconsequential as it may be, they do net the kill as a result.
It looks like Alchemist is hunting down Cinderin right now.
Yeah, big concussion coming through. The Acid Spray doing a lot of work, but not popping off his ultimate. He doesn't want to go deep on him. Kind of surprising because he did have another Stun Shadow Blade coming up, but of course his allies weren't too far off, and he has had some issues in the past surviving against them.
And Black will choose to farm away his Phase Boost, Drums, and well on his way to Armlet. Helm of Iron Will already in his inventory and 1,500 gold in the bank. And they need some detection to try and prevent these ganks from LeBron James, aka Universe. It looks like he has 1 sentry on Keep It Light, but I expect them to probably take an early gem. I think it's pretty useful. Or Team Dignitas can. They have the Meld to deal with, as well as the Shadow Blade Nature's Prophet, and the potential for Nakes Bombs, as you said earlier.
So yeah, a lot of different things that can be a great concern if we do.
Another invisibility room.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of them too. So yeah, sentries have been kind of instrumental. This has been the name of the game, is where are they positioning? Do they have vision on these invisible targets? And of course, the Alchemist is hard to keep tabs on, and same thing with the Nature's Prophet. But Snaking's the one you don't generally expect to be invis. So they've had good reactions thus far, not falling victim to it. But of course, their time to make
TP in from Pause, and there's a bomb.
Oh, Nake's Bomb right here, gonna go aggressively onto Fog. Yeah, there's no hope for him. Oh, big refraction still taking off a lot of hits, but the last charge will expire and they will get the right click to finish it off. Meanwhile, Tier 1 should drop up top, but they're trading it for the Tier 2. Just how fast can they push? Both teams having a lot here. Cinder and no Liquid Fire, but they do have the Treants. They do have the right clicks from their entire team here. Armlet up on Lifestealer now, so forcing out the fortification, but the Lone Druid, having fallen back, can't actually commit anything. Now under a Sentry Ward, sprouted on in, big RP, huge initiation for staking, then Stable Concoction can flow on through, but they get on out and he doesn't even throw it. Oh, big mistake there with the Concoction timing. He wasn't ready for snaking being that epic, but unfortunately it just doesn't work out for them. Aoi gonna get dropped down as well, gets an entangled, drops Cinder in low, but it's not gonna end in anything favorable for them. Steals on Quackle once again, instead taking a lot of damage here. Trap is not what he wanted. He needed some Invis or the Refraction. Instead, he just takes a lot of auto attacks to the face and gets dropped down. Paz is able to TP on out, but it's kind of a massacre right now. Mouz turning things around, and despite an amazing initiation by snaking, they couldn't follow it up. The Concoction wasn't charged for even... He actually started charging it after the RP came on through. It was just too sudden, and they couldn't get the follow-up they needed.
Yeah, even had Alchemist stunned, there wouldn't have been any fallout from any of the other supports. It was just the Sentry Ward that spotted out Universe. Really big deal on starting out that fight on the right foot for Mouz.
Yeah, it looked impressive, but unfortunately, the big thing about initiation is if you hit 5 people but you're all by yourself, it's not going to be relevant. And if there had been some perfect coordination and a little bit of superior foresight on that of Universe, the Concoction would have been like at its 5-second mark, and they could have followed up for an amazing combo. 4-second stun after the 1 point... Or sorry, it's now 3 seconds now that it is up to rank 2. But man, a lot of potential damage. Unfortunately, not going to go their way as Mouz is just kind of taking control. Koiko has been using that Blink Dagger to great effect. They had the Nakes Bomb, as we mentioned, with the teleport. And now they're just kind of putting out the pressure. The gloves have definitely been off for quite some time. And they're just warding up the enemy jungle. I mean, look at these ramp wards covering up all of the Radiant territory. Or sorry, the Dire territory with Radiant wards. And I mean, obviously some redundancy here, but the point is that they're covering up a lot of ground and means that Dignitas don't have safe places to farm.
Yeah, especially with these psionic traps, I think they're in a really nice position to take down Roshan. They have the minus armor from Templar Assassin, and they have the right click from TA and from Lifestealer, and the tanking ability of Nature's Prophets, Nature's Call. So I think they will do that very shortly. Maybe they'll take this T2 out first, but as soon as they do that, it may be a very early base push from Mouz. The kill score is still pretty close, 12 to 10, but XP and gold, a little over 5,000 in both of those categories in favor of Team Mouz.
Yeah. So in this position, Enchantress is moving actually for an Aghanim Scepter. Dignitas, in my opinion, feels really, really far behind for a pickup like that. What are your thoughts?
I think that she would be much better suited to a Ghost Scepter and just not get caught by the Illuminate and THD, which I guess is a little bit more difficult than it sounds, but she's a fragile hero. If they go on her with Rage and a melded TA with that -8 armor and Blink, then she's just going to melt. And again, Untouchable isn't going to do anything versus Rage. And with the Trez picker from Templar Assassin too, I don't really think it's going to do too much versus her either. So I don't think that 200 HP is the most useful, especially since they're already behind in this early game, and all she really needs to do is to survive. With the Ghost Scepter, she can still orb walk during that, and without a Midas, she's not really going to be able to do that much damage. So I think survival is the name of the game, and Ghost Scepter would achieve that to much greater effect than a point booster. But Way 2 seems to be doing decently, only having died twice this game so far.
Yeah, it's been kind of a slugfest back and forth, so to be surviving that long, at least he's in good positioning. But yeah, you mentioned the ranking of the Untouchable, something that even after its substantial buff, I haven't seen all that much, so I wasn't sure if there was any reasoning behind that. You said that Rage he will still be able to attack at full speed if he is Rage when he's right-clicking her?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, actually going for Sanjin Yasha. What the heck? Lifestealer Black really wants to just round this out really quickly, make sure that he can start his dominating spree with some really cheap stats.
Yeah, I think that Templar Assassin is next, either Desolator or BKB. If I were her, I would probably get a Desolator just because it doesn't really seem like she's dying or being focused at all these fights. They really have to keep an eye out on Black and use RP on him almost all the time just so they can control him and limit the amount of damage that he can do. And that will just leave TA up to just go rampant. But BKB, pretty core pickup, especially with a Blink build. You're not tanky at all compared to the Phase or Treads Drum Manta build that we have seen some more recent TA players pick up.
Mm-hmm. So Mechanism of Snaking is certainly going to help them out here, but it's really difficult because one thing that actually Pause going for an Nakes Bomb, no, going to cancel it out, looking for Sahilo Heal, looking for Way 2 again, but just shifting his target. multiple times over, kind of playing it like a wisp here. He's like indecisive, where do I want to go? Fortunately, he's the one that's allowed to cancel it, and they don't really have much understanding of what's forthcoming. They do actually initiate. There's a Shadow Blade. He walks on the tower for a moment, but I'm not sure how much he'll know. He's trying to get out. He is going to try to avoid it. Burst damage coming on through, but you can't do it that quick, unfortunately, and so she will be able to just TP away. Good movement from Way2. And in the meantime, they try to go for some push in the mid lane. Don't have any creeps to work with, but luckily no tier 1 backdoor protection. They're just going to be able to right-click it down and fall back. Go for every other tower, make sure everything is pretty much safe and secure, because if they continue to lose ground, they continue to lose their footing on the other lanes, they are going to have a very rough time trying to control Roche, trying to control the entire map.
Synderen just barely escaped an unstable concoction. It was flying in the air as he TP'd out, so he was trying to split push bottom. Looks like they did actually get the get a kill on bottom, but it was a deny, and Black just rips apart Fogged.
Yeah, now getting recalled in. Man, just he's all over the place. He's like, jump inside the Prophet, get teleported across the map, kill somebody real quick, get recalled back. They turn a kill into a Roche, and that's good movement for them, but you just got to think of what's going through this guy's head. Apparently he's like constantly insane, so I guess it doesn't really bear much on him, but yeah, he's just jumping all over the place and make a really, really big impact. You can kind of imagine him like any of the other very mobile heroes. I mean, Storm Spirit, Zip Zappin', and in this case, he has like 420-some movement speed. We do see both Radiant Kill and Aegis for that, so no snipe up for the Shockwave. But yeah, he does have like 484 movement speed when he's got his phase active, because he has that Yasha buff. And then on top of that, he's got the global presence of the Nature's Prophet, of the Keeper of the Light. Man, this Lifestealer is everywhere at once, and it's extremely scary.
Yeah, and they really, I think they want to take a fight at that Roche, and it's just a really good place for them to fight and group up for the RP into Unstable Concoction combo, but they just take it down way too fast. The physical damage was way too much. They had an observer ward up here, so they were definitely aware that they were inside Roche, and I don't believe a smoke was popped. But again, Dignitas doesn't really have any sort of map control right now. They're a little bit too far behind in terms of experience and gold right now, but there's definitely still in the game. Silver still late game beast.
Yeah, Universe gonna get picked off here. Gonna go for the TP, but the Ice Path will connect. I don't know what he thought he was doing pushing that tier 2, but 3 people there. I mean, just dust on a Nature's Prophet. You're always gonna get caught out, and the TP, of course, being canceled by the Jakiro's presence. So, just Snake King and Universe seem both out of position, and of course the Ogre's the one to pay. So in that situation, they want to make up for lost ground. They want to try to push down towers, get some gold for the entire team, but sacrificing yourself like that is not the way to accomplish it.
Smart TP out by Way2 there, who's about to get cut off, and another smart TP by Aoi there. So both of them just barely escaping death. Nice observer wards by Fox to spot that movement from the Nakes.
Yeah, very dangerous on so many different ways. Like they are pinned in right now. Every single time they go for a direct head-to-head confrontation, they're not really up to the challenge. Like even the amount of armor on Lone Druid is inconsequential next to how much damage can be put out in a short period of time. Koivad, of course, has that Desolator, 6 armor reduction that's amplifying their physical damage, and they're just doing so much right now. Lifestealer's now up to his Sanji Yasha, even more movement speed, now even more right-click damage and HP to work with. I mean, he's just very, very scary. And 492 MS. Like, this guy, you might as well not even give him Surge if he had a DS. Like, he's just going to cruise on through no matter what.
So it looks like Dignitas is doing exactly what they needed to, which is just apply pressure around the mat and try and avoid deaths. We do see a Nake's Bomb inside Fox right now. Is Aoi going to escape this time?
He has a TP. They do, however, have the Scythe of Ice, and they can always nullify that there. So the right clicks are there. They can get Sprout for clear vision, Sprout for blocking. There's continued right clicks. They're going to try to bash and tangle up Pause so he can't Scythe, but finally the Piglet comes on through. The right clicks to finish off Aoi 2000, and that is just painful. He wants to split push. He wants to put pressure out on the other sides of the map, but because of this Nature's Prophet, he's playing it like a wisp, and you just can't do that by yourself.
Yeah, I think that Pause is just fitting very nicely into this solo role. I had my doubts at the beginning, but it seems like he's done quite well. Even without the minus, he's still able to find that farm that he needs to.
And now Synderen taking a lot of hits. They do get the Entangle. They do get the Skewer. I mean, Telekinesis when I say Entangle. But anyways, Synderen taking a lot of damage. They've dropped the Reverse Polarity, though, and now they just buy back on the Skewer. They lose the Rubik. Snake King really wanted that kill and just to get on out of there, but now he might pay for it with his life. There is going to be that mana leak. The right clicks will come on through as well. There's no way for him to get on out. Big burst damage from Koikova and Black, finishing off really, really quickly on Enchantress. Magnus will barely be able to TP on out, just using Magic Wand, Bottle, whatever he can to get that TP mana, but so darn close to losing it all. They still are going to drop really quickly. Tier 3 is falling. They care less about the Acid Spray, the Desolator doing damage to the towers here. Snake King doesn't have Reverse Polarity, so even these buybacks, I feel, aren't going to do much here.
They don't have RP. What can they do? I mean, he has a mech, but Really, how can they defend without RP, especially with his Aegis up on TA?
Just too much right now. Well, going on in. They're going to go for a skewer. That's a piglet. Throwing him into the entire team here, but the mechanism comes out. Black still alive, has their armlet available, can just do so much damage, and there it is. Koikova with the meld strike, just bursted down. Hard to see with all these particles, but you can see just death in its wake. The bear has fallen, the buyback from the Alchemist. They can walk away with so much of an advantage right here. They've taken the racks, they've taken, of course, the tier 3 with it, and then they've taken a number of heroes on top of that. And buybacks, they spent 2 of them, and they only used Hindrance.
Wow, Lifestealer was trying to infest the Satyr, but he got...
Oh, the Shockwave? Are you serious? Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
that
funny,
was
funny.
Really funny.
Alchemist going to close in with this Consuming Concoction, will connect on Cinderance, so it should be his death here. They also got to pick up on the Keeper Light, who wasn't fleeing just fast enough, so good pursuit for them. I guess that kind of helped out the fact that they committed so many buybacks here, but yeah, that is pretty ridiculous that he did deny to a neutral just by trying to heal up by
He's just being really greedy. I mean, he didn't pop his rage. He had an urn on him, which is the reason why he didn't want an armlet toggle, but he was in like desperately low HP range. He could have easily just popped rage and armlet toggled, but again, just being a little bit stingy with his cooldowns and choosing not to infest during the fight, just trying to use it after and paying for it with his life. But that was quite a funny death.
Another pickoff coming up. Koikova with that Blink Dagger. Pause with that Global Initiation. There's nowhere you can run, nowhere you can hide that's safe right now. You have to go as 5, and that's where Lone Druid hates to be. He's the forever alone Druid. He really wants to just be moving around by himself, having his only buddy, the Spirit Bear, hanging out with him. And instead, whenever he attempts for that kind of thing, he's always going to take a huge amount of damage, either from the Furion and the Nakes or from the Templar Assassin and the Nakes. It's just... or Templar Assassin Furion, whatever. It's just they have so much control of the map, and it seems like a mistake that Dignitas keep on trying to branch out like this.
Yeah, I mean, they keep trying to put out their split pressure, and that's usually how they start coming back. But again, this global presence, especially with the recall too, is just too much for Dignitas to deal with. And Paz is finding the kills necessary as the Nature's Prophet. It's early Shadow Blade and Scythe of Ice just picking up a lot of kills right now. And pretty much they're forced to stick as 5 right now. They might smoke up very soon. We see one on Enchantress, but that's pretty much the only way they can get back into this game. They're already 1 racks down, and oh, it looks like this.
Yeah, initiation onto Black. They got the concoction. They will be able to get the reverse polarity too. So I don't know. They don't even have to commit it. Good movement, good timing from the Rubik telekinesis, and because they had all 4 of them there ready to rumble, they actually were able to get a good pick. So good coordination from them. A little bit of overextension from Black, but he has buyback, and he really doesn't feel that this is going to be too big of a risk for them to lose himself right there.
Yep, and they still have TA as a very formidable source of damage right now. She has her BKB up as well as her Desolator, so she would just cause worlds of pain for these supports. I don't believe either of them have Ghost Scepter up. Nope, just the Point Booster and Treads up on Sahil O'Neal, and just less than 1,000 HP on Rubik with Wrath of Nature in his arsenal.
Now, looking over at the supportive levels, we do see that Fogged has been able to find his level 11, has been stealing some good Wrath of Natures and such, but he's still sitting at only 3 armor, not even 1,000 HP. He can be bursted in like 3 hits from this TA. I expect her to go something like Crit next. I mean, she could go for Disable, she could go for like Orchid or Scythe to...
There's another smoke.
Really? Okay, so they're going to be trying to actually make something happen here. I mean, that's what a lot of individuals say is if you're playing from behind, you might as well go for a Smoke of Deceit, try to make something happen with that. The problem is they don't have too much vision. You look at what the Dire see, and they haven't had a bead on a single one of Mouz's players for a very long time. They're going to see them now safely under their tower, but what can they accomplish with a smoke unless Cinderin walks a little bit too far forward?
And the kills that they've been finding haven't even been that costly. Like, sure, Black died, but what did they get out of it? Almost nothing. And they didn't get the T2 out of it. It's still a couple minutes until Roshan. So they're using their smokes, but again, even if they do find 1 kill, that's not going to be enough for them. They really need to find it at these opportune times, maybe really close to the T2 tower so they can get one out of it. But it looks like Paz is TPing in with a Nake's Bomb again.
Yeah, not going to find Magnus, though. He was, or sorry, that was Universe, I believe. But yeah, he was Shadow Bladed up and then able to TP out. So no problem there, just kind of setting it up so that he could avoid that entanglement. But that's a lot of pressure they're putting out, and immediately they have to fall back. Immediately they get nothing out of it. They weren't even really farming during that time period. So we see the goal graph just kind of going more and more in favor of Mouse. It's been a little bit of a reprieve for Dignitas over the past few minutes, but as a whole, whenever there's fights going on, it's been in favor of Mouse, and that's...
Koifa's laying a trap. He does... Fog does lay a sentry. I don't know if they're going to see him. That might just be out of range. That's probably just at the edge of sentry range. Yeah,
and now we do see an attempt to go for a gank on Aoi. He's safe under his creep, so they keep on changing up their positioning here, and we do see a blink out from Koikova. He jumped on in with pause, but it seems like they don't actually want to go on anything here. They're just going to drop some Treants and fall back to push out the creep wave. They wanted some kill opportunities, maybe on Aoi when he was overextended, but they are very, very clairvoyant of the fact that there is no vision on Dignitas either. So if there is some counter initiation, they don't see it coming, and there is going to be a lot of problems. And this is the time that the Game of Throws comes into play. They are in such a great position that unless they start throwing away their advantage, that they are going to be perfectly fine to take this on.
If Snaking hits some big RPs, though, things could completely change for Dignitas, and he's actually pretty close to his refresher. He has 3,800 gold in the bank, so he's sitting really nicely in terms of that, and an Invis rune. So this right before Roshan spawns, less than 1 minute until respawns, could be just the break they need.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just really the timing of it, how they can make it work. Of course, the vision and positioning. Right now, the TA trap's still in the Roche pit. They'll know when it's up. But the question is, who will know when one person's initiating? Unfortunately, even if they do get the best kind of initiation, I kind of feel like Alchemist is going to be doing as much damage from his spells as he is from his actual item set, since he only right now has a Shadow Blade, Armlet, and Maelstrom. It really doesn't stack up to much value here.
And it looks like Paz will be continuing to put out that pressure. They're all gathered around the Roche pit, very close to respawning, and it looks like they want to draw Dignitas top so that they can just sneak in that quick Roshan. But Sahil O'Neal is already in there. He does have a Ghost Scepter, so he will be a little bit more tanky. And looks like Snaking might get caught over here.
Yeah, jumping on in. Koikova doing so much damage to Way Too Sexy, but it's not going to be anything that worthwhile here. We do see the Scythe onto Snaking. They're going to get the kill here instead. So turning things around really, really nicely. They can't pick up 2, but they do pick up 1, and without the reverse polarity available, they take this row. So he could buy back, but even that would be extremely predictable. And right now, just look at the armor drop on this Roshan. He's at -7. He's taken so much amplified damage and just getting dropped down so very, very swiftly. So that is really bad. I think that's like, what, a 31% amplification on Roshan there, so 130% damage. It's just stupid amounts, and it doesn't take them but 10 seconds to bring it down.
So Dignitas has been finding a couple kills. They found 3 kills. Well, one was Black Dyna neutrals, but they found 3 kills after the Rex went down, and a really important pickoff on Black. But again, this one death for Snaking, which is really, really costly for them, delays his refresher by at least a few minutes, and just a free Roshan for Mouz, and it looks like they're well in position to take another Rex. So even though Dignitas are using their smokes, they aren't using them at the right time, and finding kills is important, but finding kills at the right time is even more important.
Absolutely. So difficult position for them for both teams to be in, but right now it's the fact that they have the Aegis on Koikova. He's going to start playing aggressive. He's going to start trying to break the base, because even if he jumps in by himself, what is Dignitas going to do to him? They have a telekinesis, and they have the potential to entangle and bash him. Like, they don't, if they want to commit a cooldown, like an unstable concoction or a reverse polarity, he welcomes it. Jumping on into a position all by himself, if he is the one that's locked down, then he'll come back with a second life with a full Black King bar, and the rest of the team can just run rampant through the fight.
I think it was smart for Snaking not to buy back, though. I don't think they could have taken that fight just because Roche was simply melting that fight, and that probably is their game plan. They might smoke in from middle or even Shadow Blade with the Nature's Prophet. Now that T3 is down and Rex, that leaves them very vulnerable to the side engagement instead of the typical push up the ramp. And we see another smoke.
Yeah, they're going to try to bring down Paz here. They did have the Sentry where they actually see where Paz is at, but they really just don't see the opportunity to actually bring him down. As far as movement goes, they don't have a drums. They don't have any real great way to close the distance other than snaking. That's why he's put himself out there so many times over, and unfortunately, Mouz is in a position to punish that. This Blink Dagger, less of an initiation tool, more of a death warrant. It's just like he is in a position where if he wants to commit suicide, he can jump on into the team and try to hit R, but they have quick reflexes, they have the Scythe of Ice, they have all these other ways to just prevent him from making anything happen, and so if he extends himself as such, Dignitas just really don't have the movement speed or the follow-through to make things happen. That's why Paz can play so aggressively. He can just roam on about, because a Shadow Blade, even if he's visible, is enough movement speed for him to avoid most entanglements.
So a very smart move by these two carries to save up a lot of gold. We see Black having 2,900 and Koikva having 4,000. So even if they do manage to kill Koikva twice or Black once, they can just buy back and immediately get recalled back by Sar, who is very rich, by the way, with Ghost Scepter, Force Staff, and a gem.
Yeah, just really, really good positioning for them. Now they pretty much are fighting 6 versus 5, 7 versus 5 if you count the Aegis. So they have 2 buybacks, but they can only bring 1 in. at least in a short period of time, and then they have the Aegis. In this position here, I'm kind of, all these factors adding up, I have no idea why they don't just try to take high ground here. I know that that's generally going to be the worst position for them to take, but I think they're strong enough that they can overcome even that.
There's no need to take the risk to push up this hill and clump up for a 3-4 man RP and potentially change the game around. All they need to do is just slow siege, push in mid, push in bottom. They have the Furion for it, so there's really not too much pressure on them. It's still quite a bit until the Roshan expires, still at least a few minutes. And again, they can just backstab through mid or through bottom. They don't have any sentry wards on the side of Dignitas right now, and I'm checking their inventories. I don't see any gem either, so they're very, very vulnerable to that gank, and if they force a buyback out of mag, they can just wait until their sheep cooldown's up and then just go on them again, and then that should be a good game. But Mouz is still playing a little bit defensive, and I think they should make a move until this Aegis, but again, not too much pressure on them. They have complete map control. Dignitas is confined to their base right now, so even if they do let this Aegis go to waste, they still will probably have enough map control for the next one. Unless Snaking gets his refresher, though. Again, he's very close to that 4650.
Yeah.
A double RP could just be very, very devastating for Mouz.
And that can be a game changer. That 100% can. In this sense, I understand what you're saying absolutely. Don't force the issue when you don't need to. Just win by gradually asphyxiating them by making sure that they cannot keep on farming away. Just keeping them tied in their base and just letting them have the lane creeps that happen to wander into that territory. But they are still leaving extra time on the board, extra time for people to at least get the gold over time, at least get a little bit more items and more opportunities to turn things around. Specifically, Snaking with that refresh orb is a very, very big threat, and the total cost for that is 5,300, so he's very close if he's not concerned about buyback.
Yeah, I don't think he can risk that, though. If they pick him off before he gets his RP or refresher off, then it's almost certainly GG, especially with all these buybacks. So I think he's going to have to wait until, like, 6,000, 6,500 gold until he wants to buy it. But more likely than not, he is going to die in this upcoming engagement. But again, only 1 minute left until Aegis, so they have a very small window in between the refresh from Magnus and the Aegis expiration.
Going on in, we just see open wounds onto the Spirit Bearer, doing a lot of damage here. They're just throwing out spells back and forth, but it's actually Black's the only one really forcing any issues here. Actually, Quokva taking a lot of damage here. He will be dropped down. The Aegis gonna pop off, but he's forced in a single position. Snaking waiting for an opportunity, looking for this RP, but there he's gonna be Ice Path connecting on top of them. Quokva still dropping low. There's that RP connecting on the 3, skewer them back on into base, hitting on everybody but Quokva, so he's gonna get on out of here, just dueling it out right now. But Black is the one fighting out. Oh my gosh, that attack speed. Bashing up on top of that Alchemist, dropping down Lone Druid. They both buy back on into this. They're both going to try to make their impact here, but without the RP, the concoction has to be perfect. 2 seconds, 1 second. No! Universe gets stunned by his own concoction, and they can't turn this around. All they can do is just watch as their base takes so much damage as they throw gold on the ground to buy back into this, and Mousesports just walk away with a win.
Yeah, but again, Snaking did not die. 5,200 gold right now, and this might be the time, just now or never. But he still has quite a bit until his first reverse polarity is off cooldown. But I don't know, this might be the game changer. They didn't actually get the T3 out of that, which is actually a pretty big deal.
Yeah, that is, I mean, it's huge. The fact that they were able to hold the line is very, very important, but they did spend the cash of the most important individuals. That's 1,300 for the Lone Druid, the Alchemist for 1,200, and they don't have Midases, they don't have really free farm outside of their base, so that cash is, they're really, really strapped for it, and it makes it count, every single one that they have to pick up. It looks like he will be going for that Mjolnir rush, going for the Hyperstone to make sure that it will be built up in a relatively quick manner. But they're very, very far behind. You were talking about how much cash the Lifestealer and the Templar Assassin have available, and now it's just going to get worse for them. Lifestealer picks up the Abyssal, finishes that out, so he has a huge amount of right-click damage. We've already seen how fast he can attack, and on top of that, he's going to have the Physical Bash, which will guarantee a stun on a hero like Alchemist.
Going back to the last time, I'm actually quite surprised Quokva popped his BKB so late. His Aegis... he uses the Aegis, and then right immediately after that, he got stunned by the Alchemist without popping his BKB. And usually, as soon as he's popping Aegis, like, okay, I'll just BKB and go to town on people, especially when they use a couple of cooldowns like that. But it put him in a somewhat of a compromising situation, and I think the fight could have gone a lot better had he not been forced to retreat at maybe 10% HP and then popped his BKB in a refraction. Yeah. He almost had to Disintegrate at that point.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with that. I mean, there was a lot of right-click damage. I mean, the Alchemist still did most of it physically, but if he hadn't been locked down, if he hadn't been stunned, he could have maneuvered away in the first place, pulling them into Mousesports' enemy, maybe a Macropyre Ice Path combo, something like that. But his positioning, yeah, he was so far forward when the Aegis respawn came out that by not popping his Black King bar immediately, he was guaranteeing that he was going to be playing the rest of the fight on the defensive.
And Alchemist is actually very farmed too. He did buy back, but he has Armlet, Shadowblade, Maelstrom, as we talked about earlier, and Hyperstone as well as Skullbatcher. So Abyssal coming up pretty soon for him. That might be a lot of trouble for Lifestealer, especially during that rage. If you can disable him during a rage without the use of RP, that's pretty huge.
Sure. You don't think he's going to go for the Mjolnir prior to the Abyssal?
I think he will, but I think locking down the snakes or the TA during the BKB is especially important. Notice that last fight they controlled the TA very, very well, and it led to a them getting the upper hand in that fight. And if they continue to do that, then they can probably keep winning these team fights, especially with this refresher. But again, Maelstrom not really useful versus, or Mjolnir not very useful versus TA with BKB and a Nyx with Rage, who are their biggest problems right now.
Yeah, very, very dangerous threats, and it's not really changing anytime soon. They're still being big players. Eventually, Lifesteal will have to start selling items. Like, he's got a magic wand and not even a TP scroll, and he's going to sell that out. But then the drums, the Sanjiyacha, they're not late-game items, and they are taking up space. Even the armlet will eventually have to be sold if this game goes extremely late, which seems to be what Dignitas is trying to force. They're turning it up. They're going as long as possible to stay on in this, but it's getting harder and harder as time goes by. We do see, actually, this has been up for a while, I believe, but I didn't comment on it, a full Assault Cuirass up on pause on the Nature's Prophet. So they already had the -6 armor from the Desolator. They have, on top of that, the -8 from the Meld Strike, and now this AC coming on through for a 5 as an aura. It's just so much damage to towers, to heroes, whatever it is. We are talking about the really, really low base armor of Alchemist, and now, no matter how much HP he has, he's not going to have much to work with here. He's literally sitting on 10, and that can be shredded down to negatives very quickly.
Yeah, I'm just surprised Mouz hasn't taken a different approach. Instead of just brute forcing up that hill, they could easily enter through mid and not be forced to clump up for the 3-man RP that Snaking was able to lane last time. And they really need to abuse the fact that the T3 and the Rax is down in the middle. It actually doesn't hurt Dignitas as much as it would a normal lineup, simply because of Goblin's greed. Usually you lose out on a lot of gold because of that Rax down, but it looks like they will smoke and try and contest this Roshan, which is up right about now.
Yeah, exactly. This is perfect timing. This is Dignitas' opportunity to swing this game around. There is no Observer Ward vision, but they are going to have Zar just walk up the cliff a little too aggressive. Illusion, but they do have vision on both sides. So they do pop off the trap. They do have a trap on inside the pit. This is it. This is a positioning. Where is Magnus? He is up on the cliff. He is still in his smoke, waiting for his opportunity. This could be amazing. This could be terrible, but either way, it's going to go one way or another. We do see Aegis picked up on the Lone Druid. He's going to come on in. There is going to be one RP coming out. Snaking getting forced away, but still has that blink up and ready. So he is up on the cliff. He is ready to get on out of there. Just popped off the stun. Alchemist kind of waiting. Just mana leaked up. He is very concerned about his position here. Going to take a lot of hits. Snaking could go on in. Snaking has a great opportunity. Wait, where'd he go? No, he's back in base. Okay, he got recalled back, I believe. No, anyways, he TP'd out. The triple kill goes completely in favor of Mousesports, and that fight was very, very wonky. That was
a 45 with Furion taking out both the T3 and both sets of Rax on top. So that was a very devastating fight. Sure, they got Roshan, but they paid heavily for that.
The initiation really just never came. I kind of, like, there's a part where it didn't seem to work. Like, I don't even know. What would you say happened in that fight?
I mean, the solo RP on Black, I mean, he has Refresher. He should be able to hit a couple of more, but yeah.
Trying to do what they could, they just couldn't get the position, and they couldn't get the cluster, and Mousesports knew the threat, they avoided it as best they could, and now with that Force Staff, big damage coming in on top of the Magnet, so they bring him down, and Owie as well. Just too much damage coming in. GG is called. They just, no, that was too chaotic for them. They were already so far behind in gold. They got the Roche, they got a second Druid, and they even had the Chiefs available, but it just didn't add up to much at all. So it's all on Snaking. He tried to initiate the best he could. The solo RP certainly didn't cut it. And then he actually got forced out, I'm not sure by an ally or an enemy. It looks like it had to have been an enemy. So he got forced back onto the cliff, and he was just kind of holding the line for a while there. So after he got pulled out of the fight after that first RP, and Alchemist was just sitting there in Shadowblade, they didn't have anything offensive. They just were running and hiding and dying, and that just went the way of Mouz. So kind of a little bit of a sudden ending, but it was moving that direction for the past 15 minutes, so not all that sudden, I guess. TA doing a lot of damage with Desolator, Daedalus, BKB, and the Lifesteal, of course, doing so much with that Abyssal. So just good movement there, good cash flow on Mousesports as they contain extremely effectively, and they did so many good skirmishes to win them early towers. Especially, I got to give it to Tsar for those first like 3 or 4 big Illuminates to just completely destroy team fights.
Yeah, and I think it's very smart that Mouz didn't actually go into the Roche pit. They let them have Roche, but because of that, they didn't clump up for that double, very, very devastating potential of the double RP. So, well played by Mouz there. It looks like it will be 1-1 now, and we will move on to Game 3.